Hey, what it do, y'all? UFC 308 happening tomorrow morning. It's not a fight night, it's a fight morning, so wake your ass up. And if you live in certain regions of the world, stay the fuck up because you ain't gonna wake the fuck up. Now, these are my picks on the card. I do want to point out that picks are different than bets. If you saw last week's, you saw that I actually had Fluffy on one of my parlays, and that TKO looked pretty nice at plus 500, although it didn't look like Herb Dean was going to give that shit to us and many other people counting on it. We did finally hit. Great example right here, Chris Barnett. Throw a little sprinkle on that knockout. It does pay handsomely. I had Neal almost by knockout going into it. The wham hit. He's a little deflated now. I still got to go with Neal, but I'm going to give him by decision. Now, there's a couple of storms that got to be weathered out. It's a great under-over. It's simply put, like Bruno Ferreira, if he's going to finish Abu, then it's going to be probably in that first round. Second, third round, it's not going to look as good for him. Same thing with Whitaker and Hamzat. Hamzat's going to look probably best in the first two. Going into that third round moving forward, it's Whitaker's world now. From all that we know, the weight cut was hard for Hamzat and shady as fuck, by the way. Extending the weigh-in deadline, not even letting it just balance and gliding it over. Some Khabib shit going on here, and I'm fucking sick of it. Now, because the weight cut was tough for Neal, I'm going to remove him as one of my locks. I'm going to start my lock off with Fakhretdinov. I like that. And then I'm going to go with Oralbai. And that's as far... Oh, let's throw Basharat in as prelim as well. Those three are going to be my locks on the prelim. I'm not against Kennedy, but the heavyweight bouts, you know how it gets, those light heavyweight bouts. Them boys got some power, and when they hit you, they put your ass to sleep. So, a little tougher. But yeah, I like those three. It's tough not having Bruno as part of that, but he's got a lot to prove still. And when he has his opportunity and he gasses out, it ain't looking good for him. And Abu is one of those guys that could, again, weather the storm and turn that second round into a finish of his own. Surprised if it even go to 3. Great prop under 2.5 rounds for that reason. Now, kicking off on the main card, I want to focus about the last Pirate, share a bullet. Huge fan of the guy. Followed him prior to coming into UFC. The moment they recruited him, I'm like, oh shit, we're in. And did he show up? Not quite. His grappling is very weak. His striking does accumulate and put people down, but it's almost like a death by 1,000 cuts. It's fast, but you know what I mean? He's also getting traded on. And so, yeah, I wouldn't dismiss Petrosian. I think this is a pop and popcorn fight. Sit back and enjoy it. Be careful on your parlays with this one. You might be upset if you include it. But I'm going to edge Bullet. Part of that is, well, I don't think he won the fight against Bruno and he got the decision win. And it's because if your name ends with a V and you're fighting in Abu Dhabi, those judges just, for your Majesty. They're going to give you that decision win more times than not statistically. So keep that into consideration too. Next on the main card, we got 50K Ige taking on Iceman Murphy. Great matchmaking. You got another top prospect coming up. Ige being that guy. Of course, last time was 4-hour notice because he's a G. Literally. Take out the I and E in his name. He's a G. And thanks for saving that card. But here, he's got a chance to retaliate and redeem himself. And Murphy, he's got a chance to prove himself against another vet like, yo, give me these guys. I'm ready for it. So, great matchmaking. I'm excited for this one. I do think either way it goes to a decision. Who knows? Maybe they're hungry. I know Murphy was talking about that 50K. Surprised me. Let me see a knockout. But more likely it'll go to the judges, unlike this next fight. Ankalaev taking on Alexander Rakic. Another amazing fight stacked up for your Majesty. I love the matchmaking here in all seriousness. These guys can both mix it very well. And let's face it, Alexander Rakic, he was looking very good against Yuri until he didn't, right? He had a great game plan. The legs of Yuri didn't bother him because he's up in the Asian mountains fucking playing Ninja Turtles, kicking bamboo trees, cinder blocks, the whole 9 yards. It just didn't matter to him. But with Ankalaev, those leg kicks make a big difference. Jan Blachowicz couldn't finish the fight, sure, but he gave himself a shot in that fight. Everyone had counted him out. And yeah, I gave it 3-2 Ankh. I thought it was a bit of a robbery, but very close. Went to a draw. So here we are. And they're just kind of just like UFCs right now. Ankh, make us impressed with you in order to get this title shot. Fuck off with that shit. Let the man fight his fight. If he wins, he wins. You don't do this with anybody else. This guy hasn't lost in like 6 years. Where are you coming from with this? If he was some outsider coming into your organization, you guys would be through the roof promoting him as this big bad boogeyman. He's here, his style works, and you just don't like it. I'm sorry, but I don't really give a fuck. They're at 205 pounds. These guys can put each other out. There's a little bit of a chest battle there. When they get into that clinch, work each other up against the side of the octagon, ask Johnny Walker. Some of these dudes can give it, but they just can't take it. That's part of the reason why I like Ankalaev in this fight. I think he's able to take it. I think he's able to take some of these shots from Rakic. On the opposition, I don't think Alexander can take it from home. So, waiting to see if that big connection happens. Moving on to your co-main event. It gives me pleasure to say that Khamzat Chimaev has done it. It wasn't honest, but he did it with some assistance of the UFC and His Majesty, of course, taking on Robert Whittaker. Now, if you've seen the 308 card slab, you know I'm a big fan of both these dudes. Khamzat coming into the UFC, one absolute tyrant that will forever hold records, I'm sure, for the time frame of finishes, the activity between fights. It was some real Poetan shit, and I loved it. But we got to learn a little bit more about Khamzat as this level of competition did increase, starting with Gilbert Burns. It's because of that fight, when I look back and reflect, what can happen when he's going in against someone who isn't short notice, who isn't being flipped around last second to fight him when he wasn't originally scheduled. Poor Kevin Holland. It's because of that reason that, man, when you're going against the Reaper and he's had his whole time, his whole camp, and he's as focused and as motivated, knowing that probably his last shot at the strap again, I can't go with Khamzat for that reason. He doesn't look good past 3 rounds. It's a 5-round fight. And Khamzat didn't look good on the scales. Now, he's changed some things up. He's at Grozny, Russia. Better influences. He doesn't have Darren Till sitting around him. Motherfucker would have been fighting at 205 easy. Darren Till would have been around him, but we just don't know yet. He struggled against Kamaru Usman, although one of the greatest welterweights of all time. I mean, Usman came off the couch. He didn't even properly fill middleweight. He just came in like a week's notice, like Diego Lopez said, yeah, throw him at me, let's go. And that's because dude's a gamer. I like that he's going to be taking on JDM. See, he's taking these big fights because he knows he needs to do something big to also have one of his last shots at a strap. Now, let's face it, this is going to be a storm for Whittaker. Duplessis showed us some things. Khamzat will expose some of those things. I just don't think it's going to be enough to get the submission. I don't know if he would get the TKO with some ground and pound. I think Khamzat's best shot is the submission. But if Whittaker can game, roll around, survive, we could see Khamzat start to get gassed and tired. Backpacking, wearing out his arms, back on the feet we go. Grappling isn't working anymore. Whittaker stuffing the takedowns, landing big heavy shots. And I could see Whittaker knocking out Khamzat Chimaev. Again, it's a tough fight, and if you're on the fence, hear me out. You see the hunger in that man's eyes? What happened to it? Things have changed. He's got some money, but more has changed, right? He's come up 15 pounds in weight. This just isn't a 10-pound transition. And I think the level of competition, when you get someone as veteran as game, as Whittaker, I don't know, it just makes for a very tough prediction. It's either the submission by Khamzat early or the knockout by Whittaker late. In the famous words of Bruce Buffer, it's time. Is it going to be Ilya and Still or Max and New is the question. I love this matchup. I love that Max especially, you know this dude brings it. I was at 300. I'm a big Gaethje fan. He looked good moving up, bulking up, and coming down. Dude's never missed weight. Bless is as professional as it gets. He's never failed a test, and he's legitimate. See, I think the kryptonite for Ilya is someone who's able to mix the knees, mix the kicks. He's wanting to get close. He's very calculated. He isn't throwing as often wild shots. Can't say he doesn't throw it. If you go back and watch his dude's tape, he does throw some like random ass fucking heavy shots. But my point being is he's more calculated. He gets in. He goes for the finishes. Every punch of his has ill intention. Like thunderous pad work. Like you just know that dude can knock out pretty much anyone, not only in the featherweight division, but I would argue if he did ever take a chance at 155, he'd be starching people there too. But Max is as game as they come. Like, yeah, Max has been wobbled, but his recovery is insane. He's right there, and I'm talking few times has this ever happened. Ilya has fought dudes that don't even have nearly the same striking accolades as Max, and he's been rocked. Like Bryce Mitchell rocked Ilya. Go back, watch the fight. Bryce Mitchell rocked with his hands. Herbert, same thing, had Ilya rocked. So Ilya is definitely acceptable, and I know he's sitting here saying, hey, watch his first 10 seconds, the first round, the second round, it's going to be the most exciting thing. I think it's just a fib, man. I don't think Ilya wants that smoke. I don't think he wants to be in a gunfight with Max because we know Max can take it. I don't think Ilya can take it the same as Max. And so I think his plan is to keep Max towards the center of the octagon, work for the takedowns, and lean on his jiu-jitsu. That's his bread and butter. That's what got him to the dance. His striking's impressive, and you get these guys that I'm not saying that Ilya is a jiu-jitsu guy, but you get these guys that start hitting these knockouts, and they just feel so confident that, that's just the way they're going to do it. And after the knockout against Volk, I think that's how Ilya feels right now. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be the first to do Max. It's like he wants it for the legacy. He just doesn't quite know quite yet until the fight that it's going to take something very special. And this whole buildup has been just Ilya yapping like a little chihuahua. And Max is just sitting there nodding his head like, we'll see Saturday, my brother. wait until Saturday, And that's just his style, man. He wants this fight. He's hungry for the fight. And honestly, I couldn't think of one of the better final chapters, too. A fighter like Max, all that he's done, I would love this. And this sets up so many great fights. Volk, Dustin, Diego. And I know some people are going to be like, oh, but he isn't a real double champ if he pulled the upset. It's a BMF belt. It's a make-believe. Bitch, knock that off. He came up to 155 against Gaethje. That man has been one of the greatest headhunters at lightweight. So Max came up 10 pounds. Aced that fight. Gave Gaethje a chance. Won it like a true BMF at the end. So that opens up some possibilities there too. You got Dustin. You got Hooker. Throw that BMF tournament. Get Diego Lopez in there. Get some of these 145s, 155ers that want to bang. Get them in that tournament. And let's find out, So I'm going Bless Express. Pull the upset. Dude's had an amazing career. He does struggle against some of these smaller guys. So I know Ilya is going to be part of that problem, just like Volk was. But, he's been here before. He's hopefully learned and trained and knows exactly what he has to do. I think that spinning heel kick is going to be a big money shot for him. Land it right down the middle. Time when Ilya's in and out. And we're going to open this fight up for Max.